ironically, I think we were going that way anyway, technology in process excellence. Kevin, perhaps you could start by giving us some examples of how technology might have assisted you in your process excellence endeavors.
Sure, absolutely. I think first and foremost, when you look at things like mobility, that technology isn't necessarily new, but we've been able to implement various mobile solutions to allow people to access various systems, to do what they need to do while they're away from the office or while they're on the road, and freeing up that capability. It's a fine line, right? Because you don't always expect or want people to be online at all times, but certainly as industries move towards more remote working or more smart working, having the capabilities, having the technology to allow them to get their job done or get what needs to be done, having that accessibility is certainly critical, and it helps process across the board when you can serve it up in a way that can allow people to work in a mobile fashion.
Shall I chime in?
Yeah, sorry, of course. Go ahead. That was Brad, I think.
So what I'm seeing is a convergence of the technologies. I think we're in an unprecedented time with many technologies that are having an impact. That we've got mobile, we've got social, we've got big data, we've got cloud. And the interesting applications I'm seeing are the ones that sort of take and combine those technologies into something that's not been possible before. I'm looking at, in general, at the notion of continuous delivery, which I mentioned before. And if you think about, I was just talking this morning to someone who's in healthcare, and if you imagine that someone is calling in because they've had some kind of medical issue, and they call into a call center, and the person on the call center has pop up some profile of that individual. Maybe it's got something that helps them diagnose that situation, maybe a checklist. And then maybe there's some artificial intelligence. The WellPoint is working with the Watson group of IBM with some artificial intelligence that maybe makes some symptoms to diagnosis connections. Or maybe it looks at a whole raft of data about that individual and comes up with a unique, tailored solution for that customer. So you're applying possibly mobile. They're possibly doing that from an app. They're traveling. They're away. They've had interactions. The big data has tracked all of those interactions. It knows in detail about things that they've done or not done. And then they've used some artificial intelligence and some big data they've translated down, and maybe they're feeding that back to that individual through a mobile app. So what I see is going on is the convergence of a lot of these technologies into combined opportunities for process changes that didn't exist and are unprecedented and are occurring at an incredibly rapid rate.
That's incredibly interesting. Healthcare, I know, have been experimenting with this for some time. Do you feel that perhaps they're a couple of steps behind some of the other industries? Do you feel they're now beginning to catch up, or that they're treading ground that other industries have already trodden?
I've spent a fair amount of time in healthcare, and if you look at the core of care delivery, if you look at acute care, if you had a heart attack and went to the hospital, that world's not changing very much. But if you look at the, lights went up.
Night.
There you go. Motion detector. I was sitting too long. I'll start over. If you look at the area in healthcare of acute care, you have a heart attack. That area, and you go to surgery, that area is not changing that much. But if you look at chronic care, if you look at things like maintaining your health and wellness, there are a lot of apps that are coming out that can help you maintain a healthy lifestyle, to follow your protocols, to take your medicine, whatever it might be, to eat well. So there's a lot of innovation, and the challenge is that healthcare is very conservative because it's very safety orientated. But there are disruptors coming in. The changes that are coming in many industries or companies that are coming in using a mobile platform, using an app as a way to get in. So Fitbit is, perhaps going to innovate the way that people do day-to-day activities and monitor those. Then it's going to go into healthcare, and then the next thing you know, Fitbit and some sort of app based on it are going to become your window into your health management. And so whether the traditional players in the industry are conservative and not that innovative, there are disruptors that are coming in and forcing their hand.
Angel, you also mentioned a lot of experience with mobile innovation. I believe you were talking about multi-screen experiences. Do you think these kind of ideas are something that could translate well into other industries, like healthcare, for example?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Craig. In the past, I have worked very closely on healthcare, and one of the biggest impact that I have seen on that technical integration for process excellence is on how do you actually do the remote monitoring and remote treatment of patients from a distance. Basically, you have what we call the healthcare telepresence, where a doctor can be in one location, the patient can be somewhere else, and the patient can be treated and do the whole diagnostics with that. That's an amazing experience right now, and actually it's one of the best examples that we have seen on how healthcare is transforming in actually work the different costs for operations and how the innovation can be improved using this kind of technology to actually satisfy the patient in different needs they have. Not only they're using that in hospitals, you can do that for kind of a rehabilitation, you can do that for different kind of treatments, and it's moving into a very fast way that I would not be amazed that in the future, instead of you having to go to the doctor, you can have a platform or computer in your home where you can just hook up to yourself, and the doctor in his office can go ahead and take care of you without you going to the office. We're not that far away from that.
Yeah, and we actually use that.
Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
I'm sorry, and it's very relevant in the in executing clinical trials as well. Historically, we've had to send people on site to make sure we understand what the data is telling us, to make sure that we actually have the data to ensure that we can report on it, to make sure we can understand what insights are being developed. Now with increases in technology and access to data, we're able to do more what we call remote monitoring, where we can understand exactly what's going on our investigator sites. We know exactly what's going on with the patients because patient safety is of utmost importance to us. So we can save money, we can increase timelines or decrease timelines in terms of how long things are taking in a clinical trial, because we have better access to data and we can make decisions based off of that data in a remote fashion, as opposed to going out on site and flipping through documents, flipping through data in order to understand what's going on. So technology has drastically helped us perform clinical trials in a more efficient manner as well.
Danica, do you have anything to add with regards to new technology?
I don't.
No?
Mm-mm.
I wanted to, while we're on the subject of technology, I'll have to move us along to the next topic shortly. I know that one of the key themes at this year's PEX Week is aligning new technology with traditional process excellence methodologies and ideas. I wonder if any of you have any thoughts on or experiences with that.
Hey, Craig, it depends on how you see it, and probably my colleagues agree with me. When we talk about process excellence, basically here at Univision and any other place that I have worked with, we're actually based on three main pillars. And you have to have this. It's what we call people, process, and technology. So if you actually are able to get the right mix for those three pillars, you get right on the sweet spot on how to implement and how you be successful in a process excellence program. So basically, when you talk about all process excellence way to do it, a new technology, I think that is something that is moving with time. The more that we get into more complex process, the more that we need of technology, the more that we need of people input and able to get it done. So it's very important that when we talk about that technology, and process excellence, both they're not separate. The three of them are together, and they move together forward. None of them can be lagged behind in order to be successful.
Provided, of course, that technology complements the process excellence endeavors, I suppose.
Completely, you're right.
How about the other panelists? I mean, more traditional process excellence endeavors. Is there a way to sort of blend those? Is there a way that technology can complement and perhaps enhance those?
What I see in a lot of organizations, if you look at it organizationally, there are a set of process people that come out of operations in the factories and plants and manufacturing. They're practicing Lean Six Sigma, and they're doing continuous improvement. In some of these organizations, they've implemented SAP or some enterprise system that has been driven from the center, top down, and it's required them to define process owners and a process architecture that's top down. And in many of these organizations, those two entities are separate. So the technology-driven one that's from the top down, from the application outward, if you will, is doing process work, and they call it process work, but it's different than the process work that's being done in operations. I don't know if any of the other panelists have seen that same divide, but organizationally there's sort of a technology-led kind of re-engineering of processes that happens, and then there's sort of a process-led or work improvement-led. How can we just make the work better?
In a past organization I was with, where similar to what you described, Brad, you would really have all of that driven by the IT organization, and where this company moved to was using operations personnel to be that liaison between IT and the business to really actually define, test out from a process perspective those business requirements, and then bringing that to IT versus IT really driving the change.
Do you think perhaps that's where there's been a disconnect in the past, because IT tend to drive technological innovation, whereas process excellence has been generally kept separate from that?
I don't know.